So the Falcons set to open MAC play this weekend as we welcome in Michael Burwell from the Toledo Blade. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Yep, thank you for having me.
Before we get into the Ohio matchup, let's talk a little bit about that Michigan game. I think the Falcons went into Ann Arbor with a great game plan. They didn't count on the injuries, and that's really what hurt them, particularly in the second half.
Yeah, the injuries were just enormous. I think they lost, from my count, about a half dozen of their best players either left the game with an injury or kind of hobbled off the field. They're down to their third-string quarterback who had never taken a snap before in college football, and in an environment like the Big House for your first game. I mean, he was put in an impossible situation. Hayden Tomashik, he never transferred from Purdue. He didn't even get to BG till the summer, and I mean, he's thrown in this situation, hadn't taken a snap with any of the starters. I mean, that's just a tough scenario. But Scott Loeffler, head coach of BG, liked how he played, and the fact of the matter is they have to get healthy really quickly. I mean, they got beat up pretty hard. I mean, I don't think they even practiced today. They just need to get healthy and try to do the best they can on Saturday.
Quarterback's position is still very much up in the air because of all those injuries, which maybe becomes a blessing in disguise because Ohio doesn't know who to prepare for at quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, BG. If Connor Bazelak can come back, that'd be great. If Camden North, I mean, if he could possibly come back, I mean, those are two different style quarterbacks. And then, get a week of practice with Hayden with the first stringers, and you never know. I mean, maybe he can really perform well and do a little better than in the situation he was in. But BG's going up against a really good Ohio team that has a really, really good defense. They've only allowed 47 points this year. They're coming off a win over Iowa State, first Power 5 win for them, I think, since 2017. So BG is going to face just as good, not as good as a Michigan type, but I mean, they're going to face a very, very good defense this week.
Speaking of defense, the Falcons' defense was able to force quite a few turnovers against Michigan. Now, some of those you could say J.J. McCarthy just didn't play very well, the Wolverines quarterback, but I think part of that also was what BG was doing to disrupt the rhythm of the Michigan offense.
Yeah, absolutely. BG's defense, they played so well. I mean, up front, I thought they did pretty well considering just the size, especially on Michigan's offensive line. They were able to get some pressure on McCarthy, force him into a couple tough decisions. The third interception, really, really good play. Forced him out on his left, and he kind of maybe a forced pass out, but it was a great interception by BGSU. They did some pretty good things. They got a sack against him. I mean, the 3 interceptions, I mean, were obviously outstanding to be able to force those. So BG has a lot of positives they can take away from this game, and limiting J.J. McCarthy to his worst collegiate game, one of the top quarterbacks in the country, that says a lot about what BG did defensively.
What are some of the other positives they can take out of this game as well?
I think most of it's just on defense. Offensively was a struggle, and I mean, just the injuries.
Michigan defense, that's number 1 in the nation in scoring defense, second in total defense. So, I mean, they were able to get the 2 field goals out of all that from the offense. But I guess it goes back to that second half. You couldn't do much because offensively you were so limited with the third-string quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, they couldn't do anything. They had 2 turnovers on their first 3 plays of the second half. Michigan took control, and by the fourth quarter, with all the injuries in the third quarter, BG, I think, just wanted to get the game over with, and so did Michigan. But going back to your earlier question, there are a couple positives. I think BGSU only had 2 penalties, which mind-boggling considering you're playing in an environment like that. You have to use a silent count. There's so many things going on, and they only had 2 penalties. And this is a BG team that, in the past, penalties have hurt them a lot. This year, through 3 games, they have been really, really solid. I think the most they've had in a game is maybe 6 or 7, and then only 2 against Michigan. They did great with the silent count. There's a lot of positives that they can take away.
A lot of folks are looking at this Saturday's game, the homecoming game against Ohio, as the most important MAC game for Bowling Green. But wait a second, they play Toledo. That's a MAC game as well. Why is the Ohio matchup more important than Toledo?
It all comes down to especially that East Division, but just considering last year, BG played Ohio in the last game of the year. If BG wins and a couple other games go a certain way, BG's in the MAC championship, and they did not perform well. They lost 38-14. was not a good performance. I mean, I feel like this is for the MAC East title right now. I mean, if BG, just from a confidence standpoint as well, you beat a team like Ohio, you put up a fight against Michigan, you have a chance to do some things, especially with teams like Miami coming up, Buffalo as well. I think this game is just so important from a confidence perspective. BGSU has a little confidence. They have played well at times. They need this win to really just get going in the MAC.
And one of the things that makes Ohio so dangerous, a dynamic quarterback in Curtis Rourke. When he's healthy, they're a different team than when they weren't healthy, which he wasn't week 0, their one loss of the season.
Right. Yeah, he's, reigning MAC Offensive Player of the Year, I believe. I mean, obviously he brings quite a lot to the team. The offense hasn't really lit it up this year. I mean, I think they're only averaging about 16 points a game. Obviously, injuries have been big, but it's going to be interesting if it's going to be a defensive battle this weekend. Obviously, with BG's defense playing decently and the way Ohio's playing, might come down to a couple random scores, maybe a special teams play here or there, and we'll see who comes out on top.
It's going to be fun to see because this could be one of those milking the clock type games because that's what Ohio did against Iowa State to be effective. When there's a talent discrepancy, that's one of the things you need to do, but I don't think the talent discrepancy is as great between Ohio and BG as it was between BG and Michigan and Ohio and Iowa State, though.
Right. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, BG all year they've been saying how they expect to win the MAC championship. They expect to go to the MAC title game. They got a huge opportunity this weekend. Whoever they throw on the field, I mean, this is going to be their most important test of the year.
1-2 start for the Falcons, but that can all change on Saturday at the beginning of Mid-American Conference play. I want to thank Michael Burwell from the Citadel Blade for joining us. Of course, you can read all of his Bowling Green Falcon coverage online and as well as in print editions of the Blade. Michael, thank you.
Yep, thank you.